down. I am your leading lady, Tyra Hill, and tonight we're talking domestic violence. October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and I needed to have a real, transparent, open, and conversation about domestic violence. Many of you may not know I am a domestic violence survivor, and I am adamant about women and men talking about it. I want to welcome my guests for this evening. These two queens are near and dear to my heart. Some of you are familiar with Tracy Harris. She is a psychotherapist, LMSW, and my personal therapist. Also joining this conversation is Queen Shaundeva McGhee of Ministry 31. Let me introduce you to my guests. Shaundeva McGhee is from Flint, Michigan, and she is a graduate of Flint Southwestern Academy. She has earned a certification in certified nursing assistant, and right after high school, she is currently still working in that field. She's been working that job since high school, y'all, and she's currently working in that field. Shaundeva, I have to call her by her government name. Shaundeva is a mother of three who I love and cherish. She has had a passion to help others along as well as young women. In October of 2014, she hosted her first domestic violence event. She started a mentoring group for young teens in 2015. Change Starts with Me, which was later changed to Ministry 31. She created a Ministry 31 page on Facebook with a goal to reach all women. March 2020, she published her first book, $10 and a Fork. I love that title, Shani. And I love that book. Her first book, $10 and a Fork. Ministry 31 is all about helping. Her goal is to help, encourage, educate, support, uplift, and love as many women as she can. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Miss Shaundeva McGhee of Ministry 31, also known as Shani. Hey, Shani.
Hey, y'all.
Also joining this conversation, Tracy Harris is a licensed social worker, obtaining her undergraduate degree in social work, BSW, from Coppin State University, and her master's degree in social work, MSW, from Morgan State University. Tracy currently holds a license as an LMSW, which is a licensed master social worker. Ms. Harris has worked in the profession of social work for 17 years. Since leaving DSS, Ms. Harris has worked with many different populations, individuals with reoccurring disorders, individuals suffering from multiple sclerosis and mental health issues, domestic violence and trauma victims, in-home care, hospice, children with autism, and individuals that work in the criminal justice system. Ms. Harris currently works in private practice in Baltimore City and Baltimore County as a psychotherapist, seeing children, teens, adults, and families for mental health therapy. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome the other queen of this conversation. I'm just going to call y'all my co-host on tonight. My other co-host, Tracy Harris. Hi, Tracy.
Hello, how are you? Thank you for having me.
I'm good, Tracy. So listen, ladies, thank you. Queens, thank you for joining this conversation. I want to get into it because this is such an important topic, and really a topic that we don't really discuss in the open, especially in the African American community, right? Yeah. And so before we get into it, I want to read a few things so we can jump off this conversation with facts. On an average, nearly 20 people per minute are physically abused by an intimate partner in the United States. 1 in 4 women and 1 in 9 men experience severe intimate partner physical violence, intimate partner contact sexual violence, and or intimate partner stalking with impacts such as injury, fearfulness, post-traumatic stress disorder, and use of victim services, and contraction of sexually transmitted diseases. 1 in 3 women and 1 in 4 men have experienced some form of physical violence. 1 in 4 women and 1 in 7 men have been victims of severe violence, whether it was beating, burning, strangling by an intimate partner in their lifetime. On a typical day, there are more than 20,000 phone calls placed to the domestic violence hotline nationwide. That blew my mind. 20,000. That's a lot.
It is.
The presence of a gun in a domestic violence situation has increased homicide by 500%. Women between the ages of 18 and 24 are most commonly abused by an intimate partner. This broke my heart. 1 in 15 children are exposed to intimate partner violence each year, and 90% of these children are eyewitnesses to this violence. And I'm going to add to that statistics that they most likely grow up to either become a victim or an abuser. Tracy, what are your thoughts about those statistics?
Well, I mean, the statistics are, I mean, one, they're true. And as we can see, if we are to go back and look, those statistics have really, really gotten larger as time has gone on until now you're up into 2021. And I think that if I'm not mistaken, the leading cause of death among Black women, I think it comes in number 4 is domestic violence against Black women. So as we can see, especially when COVID hit, the uptick that was happening among domestic violence victims. So those numbers are staggering. Yes. I mean, shocking. Yes. But, they were numbered. And I want to say this, I still feel as if those numbers are still underreported. I feel like it's much more than that. But if you know about domestic violence, a lot of things are not reported when it comes to domestic violence. And domestic violence doesn't always look the same, right? So a lot of those numbers that are reported are probably women that have been either emotionally, verbally, or physically. We don't also talk about the financial domestic violence or spiritual violence that also happens against women. So I think those numbers are really probably underreported. It's much bit larger than that.
I'm glad you said that, Tracy, because I also wanted to say, just for those who may not be aware what domestic violence really, really, really is, let's clear that up.
Okay.
Let me clear it up. Domestic abuse, also called domestic violence or intimate partner violence, can be defined as a pattern of behavior in any relationship that is used to gain or maintain power and control over an intimate partner. Abuse is physical, sexual, emotional, economical, and psychological actions and or threats of actions that influence another person. This includes any behaviors that may frighten you, intimidate you, terrorize you, manipulate you, hurt you, humiliate you, blame you, injure, or wound you. And I think it's important for us to, because see, for me, Tracy, I think I hid it up out of shame. And I was like, no, maybe I need to change the way I talk. Maybe I need to, not dress as sexy, as he may think I'm dressing, and so I had to get to a point, and somebody asked me these questions one day. And I want to ask our listeners, our viewers, these questions. Does your partner embarrass you or make fun of you in front of your family and friends? Put down your accomplishments, make you feel like you're unable to make a decision, tell you that you are nothing without them, treat you roughly by grabbing you, pushing you, pinching you, shoving you, or hitting you, call you several times a day or night, or maybe show up because he or she may not believe you say where you are, you going, you know what I'm saying? Make you feel like there is no way out of the relationship. And then this is the question for the victim who will later become victorious. Do you sometimes feel scared of how your partner may behave? See, that used to be me. That used to be me. Constantly make excuses to other people for your partner's bad behavior or toxic behavior. Believe that you can help your partner change if only you change something about yourself. Mm-hmm. Try not to do anything that will cause conflict or make your partner angry. If you do those things, and if your partner does those things, you are in an abusive relationship, a domestic violent relationship. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to be clear. Shani, tell us a little bit about your journey.
I always tell people that my example was my parents, because I believe that their marriage was strong, and I always wanted to be married. And so eventually at a young age, I did get married, and it was something I was not ready for. And it was something that I had never experienced either. I had never seen my father disrespect my mom, put his hands on my mom. When they argue, we knew they argued because they went to the car. Like, I never heard an argument. And just, one day we had an argument and he hit me. And I chose to stay. It was my choice. And just like you said, when people ask me, why I don't leave, I can honestly say that it's because I loved them. And I felt like if I stayed and changed, that things would get better. And I continued to stay, and I stuck and stayed. I stuck and stayed for a long time before my mom cut up, like really, really cut up. And to the point where she called protective service on me. And they came and they threatened to take my kids. And if anybody know about me and my babies, I couldn't handle that one. And the people came and they did visits, and it was uncomfortable to me and for me. And unfortunately, even after the case was closed and they let it go, I still dealt with them.
You had that residue.
Yes. It was I couldn't let go. I just didn't understand. To this day, I still don't get it. I just could not let him go. And I think one day it just got really bad, like to the point where I was beat with a pole, TVs was thrown, dressers was knocked over, I was drugged out the back door, trash was thrown on me. It was just humiliating. And at that point, I decided that I was ready to leave. I was ready to leave, and eventually he left the state, and I think that was the best thing for me and my kids. So, yeah.
Shani, it's so crazy to me because we were like this. And for me to hear your story, because I think what people don't understand is we try to protect the men because we love them. And like you said, we think, okay, they're going to change. If I don't pop off today, he might not pop me in my lip. If the house is clean, if the food is done, then we might have a good day. And as you were talking, my eyes got watery. I actually had to tell production, get me some tissue, because that broke my heart just listening to you as a sister and realizing how we don't know everything that everybody is going through.
Exactly.
And we take people's absence so personal. And I said this because people might be saying, well, what is she talking about? Shani and I have been good girlfriends since we were in the 7th grade. I would work, Shani would work. We had a village. We was the village. If Shawnee had to work, I got the kids from school. If I had to work, Shawnee got to Ray from school. If I had Shawnee kids, I fed Shawnee kids. If Shawnee had my kids, she fed my kids. So to hear this and be on the outside looking in, not realizing all that you was going through. And I guess that's something that is important because people take people's absences so important, so personal.
Mhm.
Yet you just don't know the hell that people are going through.
Exactly.
And I don't know how I missed that, Shawnee. I just don't.
I hit
And
it.
so for me, and y'all know I'm never speechless. See, you just made me want to pull up. You and he know we'll jump in, right?
It's all right, sis. We good.
He know we'll jump his ass now. Come on. Come on
good.
now. But just to hear your story and see where you are now and see how God brought you through it.
Most definitely.
That is just so powerful. Tracy,
Yeah.
why do we as women,
Mhm.
and I understand that men are victims of domestic violence as
Most
well, because I
definitely.
can't leave my kings out there, because
Most
some
definitely.
kings are victims as well.
Most
But
definitely.
why do we as women, or even men in your psychotherapist profession, why do we protect our violators?
Well, I mean, I think that there's also a lot of, I mean, well, that can be answered so many different ways because I think it would be different for so many different people. Because I do think that some people protect their violate. One, I think that sometimes it is an embarrassment. Like, I got myself into this situation. I don't know what to do. There's like a guilt behind it. Like, well, if I'm just gonna stay because I should have never been there. I should have never got into this situation. So some people stay because of that. You will be surprised how much shame and guilt will keep people in relationships because they don't want to have to come out and say, hey, look, I am a victim of that. I think for some other women, it might be like, what does love look like? And I think that sometimes, growing up, and if you did grow up in an environment where your father or mother was very, very mean to the other spouse, very negative, very hurtful, or if you were a victim of always being disappointed, always being hurt by the people that were supposed to love you, right? Then all of a sudden, love looks like pain. It looks like hurt. So when I get into relationships, right, I will go with someone. If he's not hurting me, if he's not causing me some type of pain, then he doesn't love me. And I know that sounds wow, but there are some people that will say love is supposed to hurt. Have you not ever heard that before when people say love is supposed to hurt?
If he don't love you, he wouldn't hit you.
Exactly. And the truth of the matter is, love is not supposed to hurt. So then when I am working with someone, it's then having to reteach someone what love is supposed to look like, what it's supposed to feel like. So that is another reason. Well, like he loves me, right? He hits me every once in a while, but that's okay. He's showing me that he loves me. And then I do think, like Shawnee said, I do think for other women it is because they truly do love that person. And if I truly love you, I'm going to protect you. So I think that it can look really different for everyone. And I think it's different for every man or woman that is in a relationship as to why do they protect their abuse.
Well, Shawnee, did at any point, because I know your family, and Tracy, that was good. Because we stay. And somebody needed to hear that. If at any point throughout your journey, Shawnee, did you feel like you were unworthy of love?
Yes.
Because I know your foundation. And I guess I'm asking you this because the question that's always asked to me is, what would possess you to stay? Like you Tyra Lee. You know what I'm saying? Like what would possess you to stay? Did you feel like, for me, I felt like, and tell me where you fit into this, because this may not be your truth. I felt like because I was a daddyless daughter, I was looking for love in all of the wrong places. And so the first Negro that told me I was beautiful, even if he put his hands on me, kind of he became my daddy. You get what I'm saying? You hear the little girl saying, "Hey, Zaddy," nowadays, you know? And so for me, I understand that being a daughterless daughter allowed for me to experience some things with men. And not having a father figure present in my life to tell me, because I just believe that as a father, you should be the first man to tell your daughter she's beautiful. You should be the first man to tell your daughter how smart, intelligent she is. You should be the first experience your daughter have with a man so she can understand what is required of a man in order to be a man. Mm-hmm. You get what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And so for me, I just felt like, you know, I was looking for love in all of the wrong places. Now that you look back and reflect, what do you think? How did you end up there?
I just honestly think I was already even before we got married, it was abusive. Mm-hmm. And then so the way I'm thinking is, and everybody talked to me, my mom, my aunt, my uncle, I'll never forget. Everybody, it was like a family meeting on Shawnee about marrying him. And I just had it made up in my mind that if I marry him, then he'll see that I love him and things will change. That was just my way of thinking. So I did it in spite of what everybody else thought and felt. I had my mind made up that that was what I was going to do. When I look back on it now, yeah, I I should have left it alone at the beginning. But one of the things that I did know that when we were younger, a lot of things were hidden when we were younger. A lot of things was not talked about. And I'm not saying that my parents were bad parents. It just was not on the table to talk about domestic violence. We knew that people in the family would be hid and abused, but it's what goes on in my house stays in my house kind of thing.
I was about to say that.
Yeah.
Because
and so
we come from a culture of where we sweep things up under the rug.
Right.
And we don't talk about real life things. Right. We don't talk about the molestation. Right. We don't talk about the abuse. We don't talk about none of that. As long as granddaddy was bringing his check home to Big Mama, he could do whatever he wanted to do. And nobody talked about it. Nobody dealt with it. And so we sweep things up under the rug and we turn a blind eye, but we don't realize how traumatic it is. And then Shawnee, our parents, and Tracy, you and I talk about this all the time. What is it? The silent generation, Tracy? Where they just didn't discuss things.
They didn't talk about anything. Yeah. They didn't talk about anything.
And we talk about that because they didn't discuss anything because their parents didn't discuss things. Tracy, let's talk about that generational trauma.
Well, I mean, generational trauma is just that. It's trauma that is passed down from one generation to another. And it can look, once again, that's something that can look very different. So, there is a thing of, if we aren't talking about these things that, so let me go back. Let me start this way. Secrets. Okay. And
one of the fans just said family secrets.
Yes. I often tell people secrets hurt people. And in some, it can even destroy their lives. And there's generations that, we keep secrets. We don't talk much about what happened in the family. We don't talk about the hurt, the pain. Well, if I'm never talking about it, I'm going to pass that down to my next generation, right? I'm going to teach them how to keep secrets. I'm going to talk them how to deal with hurt and pain in a very destructive and unhealthy way. You understand? I mean, they're going to pass that down. That's what you see. All you see a lot of time is being passed down from one generation is hurt, pain, disappointment. And what is that we're not dealing with that. So that generation never dealt with the hurt and pain and disappointment and everything they went through. They passed it down, and then you keep passing it down and you keep passing it down. And at some point, someone has to break the cycle, right? That's what we're hoping. That's what we're hoping, that at some point the cycle will be broken. That someone will say, hey, look, I don't want to feel this way, or I don't want to do the things that I'm doing, or I don't want to hurt people, and I'm going to break this cycle. I'm going to get the help that I need to do that. So when we look at generational trauma, it is simply just trauma that is being passed down from one generation to another generation. And a lot of times that contains a lot of secrets that were never dealt with, and a lot of hurt and pain that wasn't dealt with. So it's very important that if we as people know that we have been through something, or we know that there has been things that have been passed down from our mothers or our fathers, and we want to have kids and we want to be parents, we need to deal with some of that stuff so that we don't pass that trauma down to our kids. We have to become more aware, and we then have to deal with it. But if not, we're going to keep on passing it, and it just becomes a cycle.
Shawnee, Tracy, that was good. This is why you got to have a professional chiming in when you have conversations like this, because it has to make sense psychologically, and one of the things I want to say to you, Shawnee, because you said sometimes I think about, like, I still don't know. I still don't know how I ended up there. Have you forgiven yourself yet for allowing yourself to grow through that?
Yes, I have, for a long time, because a lot of times when I used to do like the domestic violence events, and I would hear other ladies' story, and it was like way worse than mine, I would say, what you went through was nothing. You know what I'm saying? I'll still try to justify what he did, or what I went through. And then I had to get to the point to where I had to say it was something, regardless if you didn't get shot in your face, or you didn't cut your arm off. Regardless, it still was, he disrespected you. He devalued you. He didn't appreciate you. And then not only was I allowing him to do that to me, I had 2 girls, and I also had a son. And I also learned from doing domestic violence events is that it can be a repeated cycle. My son can do exactly what he's seen done to me, and my daughters can accept the same thing. So at some point, I just had to say, I got to talk about it, because at one point I didn't want to say anything, and that was all to protect him. I didn't want to hurt him in any way. Still, I just did not want to hurt him, but I have came to grips with it, and he's apologized. And I think that played a part too, that he was able to say that he was sorry, and I moved forward, he moved forward, and I'm able to talk about it. And I want to prevent a lot of it from our young girls, because I have heard young girls say, I'd rather deal with this than not to be loved at all. And not knowing that being hit on and disrespected and cheated on, and your money took, that is not love. It's not.
And it's so crazy you said that, because you shared your story and I haven't even really shared mine. And I know they're like, well, she digging all up into everybody else's business.
It's okay.
She ain't gonna share her story. So real quick, I was married before, like Shawnee, and this is so crazy, because we were hanging like thick. It's like we was in the club every week together at each other's house. And had no clue.
Yes, we were.
This is a good point. This is how people hide that type of stuff. How did we miss that? You get what I'm saying? It's no way. But anywho, my first husband, which is now an ex-husband, was very, very, very abusive to me on so many different levels. From breaking my finger. One of the reasons why I don't wear fingernails to this day is because I remember going out, probably with them, and wasn't supposed to, and was like, I'm a grown woman, and came in the house through my kitchen, and it was dark, and he opened the freezer door and hit me in the head with the freezer door, right? That was one of the incidences. incidents. The second incident, and I'm not gonna say like it didn't happen in the row, but the ones that I can really, really remember. We were arguing, and I must have put up my hand or something like this, and he took my nails, because Johnny, remember I used to wear my nails really long. Them stiletto nails y'all wearing, we was rocking them in the 80s and in the 90s. And he took my hand and broke all my nails down to the quick. Another incident was after I got the courage to leave him in Atlanta with nothing. I left everything. And I think that sometimes that plays a fear with women, because he was in the streets. He was a hustler. He had the money. He had the cars. I had the clothes. I had the flyness, everything I wanted. But along with that lifestyle came the other women and the abuse, right? And so I found the courage to leave him in Atlanta, and I come home and I stay low key for about 3 months. Nobody even knew I was home. And one day the girls talked me to going out, and Shawnee wasn't a part of this. It was Delonda, also known as Big Baby. And so Delonda was like, "You been home? You ain't been nowhere. You might as well go out." And I'm like, "Okay." So we go to Bugsy's. Bugsy's is a place in Flint that is like a warehouse. And I'll never forget, I had on, and it's so crazy how you forget things, remember things. I had on these white pants, this yellow shirt that tied up, and some white stilettos. And when I walked in, I saw him. And immediately my mind was like, "Oh Lord, here we go." But I'm not thinking nothing of it, because he over in the corner popping bottles with all kinds of women, like he always did, right? And so I don't pay him no attention. A couple of my homeboys see me. They like, "Tyra, what you doing here? Blah, blah, blah. Let me buy you a drink." So now I'm at the bar. He makes his way to the bar, and I looked at him, and it's a look that they have in their eyes when you know it's about to be on and popping. And I had saw that look so many times before. So before he could even hit me, I started hitting him with the beer bottles that the waitress was, because the bar was jumping. She was popping bottles and pushing them out. And we got put out the club. He chased me in a high-speed chase all through the north side of Flint. My mother was out of town. And I'm like, "Where can I go? He's going to kill me." Like that night, I knew I was going to die. And I pulled up in mommy's driveway. Now, my mother's driveway is on like the side of the street. You got to get through the gate. You got to get through the armor guard door. You got to get through the main door. So I had some steps to take. But baby, let me tell you about God and those angels. Before I could even blink, I was up out of my seatbelt, had turned my car off, had the keys, through the gate, through the armor guard, through the main door. Them angels pushed me. And when I looked out the window, my best friend had her seatbelt in her hand, still taking it off. And he tried to shoot me, but the gun jammed. So he shot out my car windows. And so for me, that was like the unthinkable. How could you abuse someone that you claim to love? Through better, for worse, through sickness, through health. Like, you know, it's a whole lot I can deal with. I can kind of deal with the other women a little bit, because that come with the lifestyle and the territory. You know, but this, how did we get here? Another thing was I was coming up out of Arlene's karaoke, and when I woke up, I was in the hospital, because he was in the parking lot, evidently waiting on me, and he threw a brick and fractured 4 of my ribs and knocked me unconscious. So when I woke up, I was in the hospital. And so to even till this day hear him make excuses for his actions, or to downplay the things that I've experienced, and to watch people that love him. And I want to talk about this, Tracy, make excuses for him, because I remember his mother saying to me, "Well, what you be doing to him?" I couldn't imagine asking another woman that. "Well, what you be doing to him?" Well, how you talk to him? As a mother, there is no way on God's green earth who has a black adult son that I would condone my son putting his hands on any woman that he's involved with, let alone ask her, well, what you be doing to him? Why is it, Tracy, that loved ones protect the violators from sisters or siblings on down to parents, on down to aunts, on down to uncles? We seen it. We see it time and time again.
Right. So I think that goes down to also knowing their stories and knowing if they were a product of not of abusive home. Understand this: every person that is abusive does not always mean that you know, that maybe the father hit the mother, or mother hit the father. Maybe they were personally abused themselves. So when we look at child abuse and things like that, and you know what, if you don't want to get hit, don't make your dad angry, right? So we don't know that whole story of what they went through as to why they protect the abuser. Sometimes it could be, well, that's just my son, and I just want to, as a mother, I'm going to protect my son. So it can't be his fault. It has to be your fault. I've never seen these things in the son. So yeah, you do have the mothers that are in denial, along with the other family members that maybe you did not raise, or maybe that person was not raised the best to understand that we don't hit other people and we don't cause other people pain. But then you also just have people that just might say, hey, look, I went through some really bad things in my life, and this is how I just kind of dealt with it. It was always my fault. So when I was hit, it was my fault. I was told it was my fault growing up. So you must have done something. That's why he's hitting you, right? Because it has to be your fault. So there's so many different stories. And that's why I tell people it's always important that we hear people's stories. If we want to get a better understanding of why they think, of their perspective, of why to do the things that they do, then you have to be willing to listen to their stories. No one's story is the same. Everyone's story is different, and listening to their story helps you to better understand them. So I think that question really is, what happened? What was going on with her? What happened to her to make her think that this behavior from her son was okay?
And I think for me, the most craziest part for me, because she was a spiritual leader, so I expected more. You know what I'm saying? And I think a lot of times, even within the Black church, we don't address domestic violence. Like, it's better if you just turn your head and act like you don't know that Deacon Willie slapping the shit out of Mother Mary. And so we don't talk about it. It's a lot of things, but there again, it's that sweeping things up under the rug. And even the feedback that I got for doing this show, nobody wants to talk about that. Why you want to talk about that? I want to talk about it because I like Shawnee, I know you got the Saints watching, but you should have told them about me. I want to talk about it because I like talking about real life shit, stuff that real people deal with, right? And so it was important for me because I understand that when I read the statistics, forgive me, Saints, when I read the statistics that the women between the ages of 18 and 24 are dealing with this. I was that age. Shawnee, you was that age.
Yeah.
Women between the ages of 18 and 24. And then I think about our babies that are 18. They don't even really know what they want out of life yet.
But and I hope you don't mind me saying this.
Go ahead, Tracy.
And I do, sorry, but there's also, we also now have a lot of things being said, things being put out, social media and things like that, especially to young girls, that in order to be validated, you need to be in relationships with a man. And I'm gonna say this because
that's really good, Tracy.
That this is a topic that really is starting to put people in very unhealthy relationships, right? Because it's this thing of, in order for me to be validated as a woman, in order for me to be to be anything positive, I need to make sure that I'm with a man. A man validates me. A man, shows to the world that I'm worth something. Especially if we're talking to, especially young girls who have grown up with very low self-esteem, no fathers in the home, things like this. I need a man to validate me. I'm not surprised that between the ages of 18 and 24 to hear that, because that's when, girls are most impressionable. I have to go out here. I have to be a man. I have to, I hear young girls, I need to be married and have children by the time I'm 24. Why?
Right.
What are we telling these young girls that, you have to be in this position in order to be worth anything? And I can even remember us growing up, if you weren't married by a certain age, what did they call you? Right? The old maid. Oh, so you're an old maid.
What's wrong with you? You ain't
What's
got no
wrong with
kids.
you?
Why you ain't married yet?
Exactly. So we really are just teaching very unhealthy things to young girls, that they need to be validated in this way. And then I also just want to speak to you, Shawn, real quick, if you don't mind. When you were talking about, I just really love, I just loved him. I don't know. It was not, I just stayed. I think a lot of times also as women, and I'm going to speak to the woman because I'm a woman, I can, on the other side of men, but as women, we have a tendency to project onto other people what we want them to be. And we kind of fall in love with that. And that will keep us there for a long time. We will overlook the red flags. We will overlook all these other things. Because just like you said, this started way before, this started before I was even married to him. But what we tend to do, if I'm talking to most people, I'm like, think about it. Think about when this behavior started. And most people, once they're out of the relationship, can say, yep, it did start before I was married to him. It did start before this. So why did I say? Because I projected onto him that, he was going to be a good husband. He was going to be a good father. He was going to treat me really good. He was going to be a great husband. No, what he was is exactly what he was. But we have a tendency to overlook that because we have a tendency to project onto other people what we want them to be instead of what they really are.
And that's good. That's good. Because I think I can contest to that. We see, and I think it comes from, I don't know, and I can't speak for you, Shawnee, but amen me if you agree. We tend to see the potential in people and not really who they are.
Right.
Right. This is a good conversation.
It is.
And it's crazy because, Tracy, I want to slide into the children.
Sure.
How domestic violence is hurting our babies and what is teaching our babies. Shawnee, you made a point earlier. You said you had a son. You didn't want him to see you growing through that. I felt the same way. And one of the things that I understand is my decision to stay in that domestic violent relationship did some things to my son emotionally. I never knew how much damage it did to him until he became an adult.
Right.
Now, I remember one time I was in my mom's driveway putting oil or transmission fluid or something in my car. We Michigan women, honey, we do it all.
Right.
And I remember being up under the hood, and out of nowhere, I just felt blows to my head. Teray had to be probably like maybe 7 years old, and he and his friends were outside playing. And those babies came to my rescue. They got him up off of me. And I mean, they picked up rocks and sticks. And at 7 years old, my son was defending me.
Right.
But I need to say this. At this point, I had moved on. He and I wasn't together. He was just stalking and was watching my mom's house and jumped on me. And my 7-year-old son and his friends, shout out to Tonio and Tata, your nephew, Shawnee, jumped in and got that man up off of me. And so it wasn't until Teray became an adult and started going to therapy and begin to discuss how me staying in that relationship or even being in that relationship traumatized him.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
As a social worker, I know you see it all, Tracy.
Mm-hmm.
Hear it all.
Mm-hmm. 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 And you know, the truth of it, when it comes to the children, I often, and when I was doing domestic violence work, you know, there's either two sides. You will either, and this is, and I'm going to say this is for women and for the boys and for the girls, because girls can grow up to be abusers also. And I don't want that to be seen as if they can't, because I've had men that I worked with that were victims themselves. But, you know, there's either two things will happen. They will either become an advocate. They will never ever touch the person that they're with. They will never, because they didn't like the way that it made them feel or how they felt, or they become an abuser. That those are kind of like, you know, that's kind of what happens. So not every person that sees abuse or that's been that or witnessed that becomes an abuser. Right? I don't want that to be. Some of them become very good advocates. Some people become great fathers and great mothers and never lay a hand on their children or their wives or husbands because they didn't like the way that that made them feel. So, you know, it really is this this thing that, you know, it could go either way. But I have even seen where even young girls witnessing their mothers being abused become abusive towards the mother themselves. Yes, where they will become very, very much, you know, angry. They start showing the same behavior of the father towards the mother. Same thing with the boys. So it can start very young, where you can start seeing, you know, those kind of traits in children at a very young age. Also, where it's like, and I've had some of the mothers like, she's just as abusive, or he's just abusive to me as my husband is. Well, it's because of what he's seeing, what he's being heard, what he's being taught in that moment, in those moments of abuse. So, you know, this is really a thing where I can't tell you which way a child will go. You know, I can't tell you, are they traumatized? Most definitely. Either way that they go, even if they become advocates, it doesn't mean that they were not traumatized or they're not still dealing with PTSD from seeing their parents or their mother or their father in being beaten or whatever type of abuse that person is going through at that time. So, you know, it really is what way is it going to go? I can't tell you. It's how we internalize things and then how we kind of like, what are we going to do with it once it's there? So that really is a hard question to kind of answer as to, will they be an abuser or won't they?
Shawnee, has any of the children talked to you about what they may have experienced throughout their journey?
No, to be honest, no. That they haven't. Sharonda, my oldest, she'll say little bits and pieces of the things, like when it's time for me to speak or something. I noticed that like she don't like to attend because she don't want to hear about it. She expresses that it still makes her angry, you know, because just like you said, when Teray had to defend you, it's been times where my kids have me and my kids are fighting him. They're helping me, and they babies, you know. So she kind of like steer away from it. She don't want to attend events. She says she can't handle it. Jalen, no, he's never said anything, but I always talk to them, and I always and tell them, encouraging any relationship that they in. If they yell at you one good time, I mean, it can be just a simple argument. I always encourage them to leave. I'm just me, just being protective. Any little thing, if it's fine, if especially the girls, if it's something where they feel like they can control you with money, that's leave. That's a sign of abuse. Is control. I encourage them to leave. I stay on them all the time about it. And if a girl date my son, I let them know right off the bat. If he ever, and no one has ever called me about that, but if he ever do, don't call me, call the police. What I would expect anybody's mom to do if I called them and said that their son was putting their hands on me.
That's honorable of you, Shawnee. And not to cut you off, hold that thought. Because parents nowadays, especially Black mothers, we protect our sons. But I'm rocking like you, Shawnee. he put his hands on you, lock his ass up.
He wrong. Most
you see
definitely.
what I'm saying?
Call the
and
police.
so, but that's rare. That's a rare mentality. And I don't know if it's because of what we've grown through, but because we understand no woman deserves that.
Right.
No man deserves that. Nobody deserves that.
Right.
And so that's very noble of you. Go ahead.
And now I try to talk to him now because he have a little girl. You know, you don't want to do anything to anybody's daughter that you don't want done to your own daughter, because it's a whole different ballpark when it's your kid. And you know, I try to be as private as I can, but I done had one of my own kids come to me about that, and just so happened that I had built a relationship with somebody that worked at the police department. And things moved kind of quickly, and we was able to get a PPO, you know, but they knew at that point, like that first episode, that explosion, they knew that it wasn't right. You know, and that's because I beat it. I try to beat it in them. Honestly, I do. Do not go through what your mom went through. Do better than me. I have no problem. Always try to do better than what your mom and dad did. Always. I beat that into them all the time. Like, do not stay in a relationship just to say that you are in a relationship. It's unhealthy. And me, I'm the type of parent, like, I keep to myself and I'm really quiet, but I do not like anyone messing with my kids. That's it. I just think that's anybody. Like, somebody called me, if one of my kids called me crying about somebody that hurt them, it's only natural that I call everybody. It's a family meeting, you know, and just so nobody gets hurt, it's just best that you leave. It's best that you leave. And I have got to a point in my life where I just want to encourage anybody, young, old, you know, don't settle. She was saying earlier, like, these girls have got to the point where a man validates you and they don't. I'm fly without him. I can make money without him. Without him, I'm still somebody. And then another thing, the hidden, they have put in their mind that it's okay. It is okay, or they don't deserve better. And they do. Now, I'm here to tell y'all do. You know, you deserve so much better. It is somebody that will love you properly. One of the things that I feel like I got into with my first marriage with my husband is I didn't wait. I was impatient. It wasn't my time. He was not for me and I was not for him. It was just a rush.
I can contest to that, Shawnee, because I heard God tell me not to marry that fool. And I still did it because I was like, well, wedding invitations then came out. What I'm supposed to tell everybody? I don't want to be embarrassed. And honey, even walking down that aisle, God was like, "You girl, I done told you."
In the back of our mind is we're saying that we're not supposed to do it, but our heart is saying, keep going. Walk down that aisle, marry him. It's gonna be different. And in the back of our mind, we say he's not gonna change. And the whole time when you be in a relationship, all you hear is the people saying it's not gonna work. You're not supposed to do it. He gonna continue to do it. It gets worse, and it did. It did. I mean, I have been stabbed with a fingernail file. You know, I had to hide that from my mama. I'll never forget that. I lied and said I fell in some bushes. And she rolled me. She didn't, Tyra. You know how mama was. She rolled me until I told her the truth. And I had to let her know. And you know,
I remember when she saw my first black eye.
Mama, she is I sit and think about the things that I took my parents through. Like I sit today and say, I knew better. I knew better. And I had a family, I had a strong team. And I just decided to do what it is that I wanted to do.
And I think that's the part that I want to get, sis. A lot of us know better. We got to get away from that myth that only women who come from broken families end up in abusive relationships.
Right.
That's a myth from the pits of hell.
Yeah.
That is not the truth.
It is.
We had a firm foundation. Good parents. We knew better. We knew better. But I just think that sometimes because we don't talk about real life stuff, and we gonna go over a couple minutes. Y'all know it's an hour. If we would have went the hour, we would only have 5 minutes. So we gonna go over a little bit, 10 minutes or something. But I think it's important to say that, piggybacking on what I just said, that just broken women don't end up in abusive relationships. All types of women from different walks of life end up in abusive relationships. And a number of things can play a major part in it. Sometimes the sex so good, you just want to put up with shit.
Say it.
You know, and I'm going to be honest. See, this is the problem. We don't have honest conversations.
It's true. Girl.
You see what I'm saying?
It
Sometimes,
is. It's that.
you know, they did this challenge for the D challenge. You know, I pull up for the D. Shut up for the D. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And we don't talk about those real things on why or how we end up there. It could have been, and at this time, I was drugging. I ain't have a good judge of character.
Right.
Because I was drugging. You get what I'm saying? I mean, it's a number of things.
Right.
And so I just think that instead of us trying to figure out why women grow through that, I don't say go through, I say grow through.
Right.
Why figure out why they're growing through it? We need to figure out how not to allow them to experience it. So we got to talk about this more. Right. We can't keep not talking about stuff because it's not going to go away.
Right.
The statistics said that homicide has risen 500%. We got to talk about this.
We do. And I think the thing also that goes back is that I think a lot of people don't know that they're in abusive relationships. And I will say that because I think that we're always told that abuse looks like it's physical, right? And verbal. If you hear the most, and then they started coming up with, okay, sexual, right? So then you have sexual abuse, you have verbal, and you have physical. Those are your three. Well, that's not true. And I tried to tell people that financial abuse, meaning that they take all your money and you work every day. You can either come home and give me your check and I give you what I feel like giving you, or you don't work at all and I hold that money over you, or you have to come and ask me. We also have to understand domestic violence is about power and control. I've had to say to women that if you're with a man who is constantly cheating on you, in order to change your behavior,
say it.
That is an abuse. Exactly. That is abuse. If he is like, hey, no, I can have any woman I want. I'm going to prove it to you, or I'll just go out here and cheat. You're not doing what you want me to do anyway. That is abuse.
Y'all talking good tonight, honey.
You know what I'm saying? So we have. There is so many spiritual abuse, right?
Tracy, I was just about to say that. Now, Tracy, you got to break that thing down.
Right. Where we use religion, anything else to try to give them power and control you. Well, the Lord wants you to, or we use the Bible to say, well, you need to do this. You need to submit to me. You need to have all these children. You need to do all that. That's abuse. And the thing about it is we're not really talking about it, or women don't understand that they're in an abusive relationship. But spiritual abuse is a big one.
Tracy,
whether you know it or not, you hear it a lot more than what you think.
Let me say this real quick. Or when you go to the pastor for counseling and he tell you, well, the Bible don't believe in divorce.
Yeah.
I'm just going to walk off right there. Y'all keep talking. And I'm going to come back after I cuss over here. Go ahead. Okay, I'm back. Because see, that's the biggest myth right there. God is not the author of a divorce. You can't get a divorce. Let me tell you that. They tried to tell me that. I said, shit. And the other thing was, it bothered me so bad because I am spiritual and I did grow up in the church. And so I just went to the book of Corinthians where it said, if your spouse is immoral towards you. So in my mind, immorality was cheating, abuse, and anything else that was not of God and of the devil. So that gave me my okay. But let me tell you how, because, and that spiritual abuse, I couldn't believe that the saints was telling me that I couldn't divorce him. and he was whooping my ass.
Mm-hmm.
And see, that's one thing they do. They try to use the Bible to to okay it. No, the Bible says a man is to love his wife as Christ loved the church. Christ don't go upside your head. So people want to pick and choose what they use their scriptures for. It's wrong. The Lord don't want his child getting beat on and spit on and drugged through the house every day. Where that say that in the Bible? That's where they go when they pick and choose what they want to use. So absolutely not. Yes, that is a grounds for divorce.
Yeah.
But let me tell you how God worked it out.
That's
I said, okay, y'all told me if I divorce him, that I'm still gonna be a married woman. So guess what? God let him divorce me, so that freed me up. You see what I'm saying? So and that was another thing. How you whooping my butt, giving me black eyes, and you divorce me? And I was like, okay, I got you. We gonna divorce each other. But like Tina Turner said, I'm gonna keep your name until I want to do away with it. And that's what I did. And now that I think about it, that was crazy, because why would I want to keep the abuser's name? But you just do petty stuff.
Right.
You just do petty shit, right?
Right.
He had me up in court for his last name. And I told the judge, I said, Your Honor, I'm going to keep this name until I don't want to keep it no more, or until I get married again. He said, well, Mrs. Such and Such, because I won't never say that name. He said, after all you done been through, you don't want to give it back to him? I said, no, not right now. I don't feel like changing my credit cards, my ID, none of that stuff. You know, but now that I think about it, I really should just gave him his little raggedy ass name back. But I didn't. You know, hey, you live and you learn. But I got a whole nother new last name.
Amen.
And I gave it back then. Boop. Shotty, shut up. Sorry, Saints. I should have told y'all who y'all was pulling up on. All right. Listen, Shawnee, Tracy, this has been such a phenomenal conversation. Yes. Y'all know I love transparent and real conversations. Before we end the show, because I'm going to give each and every one of you queens a minute to close out the show and say whatever you want to say, because somebody needs to hear from you both. I want to talk about real quick, and it might not go quick, however it go. The correlation between domestic violence, depression, and suicide. Statistics say that most women who are, or men, because we just got to stop saying women, because men get abused too.
Right. Yeah, men abuse too.
Statistics say that most men and women who are in abusive relationships or domestic violence relationships are more likely to become depressed and or commit suicide. And I think that's because people are suffering in silence. Right. People don't have a safe place to go to and to confide. Or the victim says, if you tell, I'm going to kill you and everybody. How do you get around that, Tracy? How do you maneuver? Because I know you probably done helped a whole bunch of women escape abuse. We're going to keep you on the Underground Railroad, but we just want to kind of know, you know, how you done freed a couple of women.
I think that one, we have to really kind of put out there that the help is out there. You know, within Maryland, there are 5 hospitals that you can walk into. And I know one is Mercy. Mercy is the biggest. Mercy, which is downtown Baltimore, really kind of started this whole domestic violence resources to help within the hospital. Yes, Mercy is very big on that. And then Sinai Hospital is one. If I'm not mistaken, there's a hospital in Frederick. I can't remember, but there are 5 in Maryland that you can walk into and say that you're a victim, and they will get you help immediately on that. I think that we have to do is let victims know that they're not alone, that there is help out there, I think that sometimes they feel like that's their only way out sometimes too, especially when they try to leave and the person comes and get them or they have kids. This is the only way I can escape, the hell that I'm in. And I think that we have to show them, no, there are people out here that are going to help you, that we're here to help. And we have to make sure that information is getting out there. We have to make sure that more within the legal system, that more things are being taken seriously. For a long time, I don't think that domestic violence was, hey, go get a protection order. What is that piece of paper going to do against my abuser? If he wants to get to me, that paper means
It
nothing.
didn't save me from mine.
Exactly. It doesn't save. And we need to have more strict laws when it comes to that. We need to make sure that all these things are available for victims so that they don't feel as if that that this is their only way out, is to take their own life, so that they can get the help in order to deal with the depression that they're going through and the anxiety that comes from constantly being on eggshells and feel like they never know which way to turn or where to go. So we have to make sure that these resources are available. And we have to make sure that victims know that the help is there and that we are there to help them. And I would say
I'm
that
just
is
grateful for you queens' voices and your transparency. Shawnee, I know this was new for you. I've been trying to get you to come on for a minute. I want to have to come to Flint and have to drag you a little bit, put you in the headlock, because you may be the older, but I'm older. You see what I'm saying? And so I just thought that your story, young women needed to hear it. I'm so excited about Ministry 31. I watch you. I don't say much, but I watch you. And one of the things that I love about you, Shaundeva, is you're passionate about the work that Christ has called for you to do. And I know that faith has played a major part in your healing journey. Let's talk about that.
Ooh, girl, you gonna make me cry.
You already done cried. I done cried too. Beyonce say, take a breath, suck it in, and them tears dry up. So that's what I've been doing the whole time. Go ahead, it worked.
And one of the things, like you said, we grew up in church, but it seemed like when I started living my own life, I kind of like put that on the back burner. I knew who I served. I know who the God I served. I knew him for myself, but I just didn't utilize that. But after a while, my faith in him, I think it's 1 Peter 5:10, where it talks about after you have suffered a little while, he will restore and establish you. And he definitely will. And I took that as his love restores. God loves us so much. He loves on us so much that it restores and it rebuilds our heart. I am a living witness. I have Tracy was talking about when somebody continues to break your heart, and then it trickles with that, like, because you will leave one abusive relationship and people think that abuse is just hitting, but it's not. And then I got into another toxic relationship where I was constantly getting my heart broken because I felt like I could deal with the fact that he was with other women as long as I was the main one. So it's a domino effect sometimes. And after a while, I had to step back and I had to put all my faith in God for him to heal my heart, because I was looking for a man to validate me, to fix my heart. The same man that was continuing to break it though. So yes, my faith in God, yes, I will encourage anyone and tell them to, if we so quick to give a man our heart, but when somebody say, turn it all over to God or trust in him, we back up, we freeze up. And I don't try to pour Christianity on people or drench them with, I don't, but I try to tell people what helped me. What helped me, and my faith in God, it has got me through the toughest time. And a heartbreak, if any woman has ever had her heart broken, baby, that's just something. And you talked about depression and suicide. It can lead up to that. So yes, I think my walk with Christ has been extremely helpful. I owe it all to him. I give him all the credit. Yes, ma'am.
I think we can both say that our faith played a part, because even in my gutter state, I knew God and I knew he had more for me.
Right.
And one of the things that I realized later on after that marriage dissolved was my spouse at that time was very, very jealous of me and my gifts. And I knew in order for me to be able to evolve and to grow into everything that God, like if I was still married to him, it wouldn't be no Tyra Hill.
Mm-hmm.
Or the Queen's Wind Down,
right.
or the Tyra Hill Show.
Right.
You get what I'm saying? And so I think faith, I know for a fact that faith played a major part, and always hearing God saying, you deserve better. This ain't what I had for you. How did you ended up here? Because of a choice you made. Right. You get what I'm saying? And praying and saying that, you know, God, I want better. You know, I don't want to be here. How do I get out? Right. And one of the guests made a comment, and they said that a lot of times when the man or woman leaves, or sometimes when the man or woman leaves, that they end up dead because the abuser. Mm-hmm. So one of the things I want to say to the queens and the kings out there, then I'm going to let you ladies have your way, and we're going to close out the show. Do not feel like you are stuck. There are ways and organizations out there to help you become free from that abuse. If you are in immediate danger, of course, you know to call 911. Right. But if you need resources and you need strategy, call the domestic violence hotline, 1-800-799-7233.
Yep.
Because there's people out there that are able to help you get up out of that bad situation, get up out of that abuse. Because at some point, you have to become your biggest advocate. We can't advocate for you when you won't advocate for you.
No, sir.
You know, you hear people say, well, why she just won't leave?
Mm-hmm.
Or what y'all say? Y'all just gonna let her stay in that abusive relationship? A person has to make a conscious decision.
Absolutely.
To no longer want to be a part of an abusive relationship.
Absolutely.
And a mother needs to hear that. A father needs to hear this. Mm-hmm. Daddy, mama, it's nothing you can do until your son or your daughter makes a conscious decision that they no longer will tolerate any type of abuse.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Tracy, as our psychotherapist, because we done covered a lot. To be honest with y'all, I feel like I done rushed through this show, and y'all know I don't like rushing. I like having conversations because it's so much to cover, and it's so much to talk about. Mm-hmm. But Tracy, I'm going to give you the floor, Queen, and I want you to close out the show with whatever's on your heart. No, you got 2 minutes to rock it, then I'm going to pass the mic to Shawnee.
Okay. Well, I probably won't need the whole 2, but I think what I do want to say, and this is just across the board, that if you are in a relationship, unhealthy, toxic relationship, and I'm not even going to say abuse, because if it's just unhealthy or if it's just toxic, you know, there are ways to get out. You have to realize that, one, you deserve to be you deserve better, and you deserve to be have peace. You know, I tell people peace is the greatest thing you could ever have in this world, is to become able to come home and be at peace. So you deserve better. You deserve to be at peace. Mm. And if you're stuck and you just don't know what to do, it's okay to reach out. There are people that are going to help you. There are going to people who make sure that you're going to do it in a safe way. When I did domestic violence and we help people to leave, we made sure we did it in a safe way, so we can make sure guarantee their safety, the children's safety. So it is people out there that do want to help. All you have to do is just reach out and know that as you're reaching out, you're doing it because you deserve better. You deserve to be happy. You deserve to be at peace. You deserve to have a good life, a good quality life. And, you know, and there are people there that wants to help you. And that's what I will say.
Tracy, you so dope. Let me tell you guys, before Shawnee, I pass the mic to you. And I don't know if you caught this at the beginning of the broadcast. Tracy is my therapist, and I know her books is full. So if you're out there in social media world, whether you're watching from YouTube, Twitter, matter of fact, shout out to everybody that's on Twitter. Shout out to everybody that's chiming in from Facebook, from the Tyra Hill Show YouTube channel. Shout out to each and every one of you, and thank you for joining the conversation. But if you are in need of therapy, I don't know how Tracy books are looking, but she can help you connect with the therapist. I do my therapy virtually. And so I just want to encourage somebody. And I meant to say, faith and therapy helped me to start healing and get through it. And believe it or not, I'm still dealing with it. And it was almost 20 years ago for me. And I'm dealing with triggers now. That's what me and Tracy been on for the last couple of months. My triggers. And one of my triggers is men not handling me the correct way. Like, you can't talk to me crazy. You can't rah-rah with me, because that trigger happens and that defense come up. And then, you know, ooh, yeah, it just go left. Because I blank out. I black out.
Right.
You know, it does. That's what it does for me. And so, yeah. Somebody says, I love Tracy. She is the bomb. Yes, my therapist is the bomb, auntie. That's why I ain't been in jail. That's why I ain't jumped on nobody. That and God. And Tracy, God and Tracy. I'm
you say God and the therapist, sis.
God and the therapist, honey. And let me say this, and I have to be real careful, because I don't want people to say, you always bashing the church. I would never bash the church, because Christ is the church, and I respect the Godhead, right? But, however, not even a but, your pastor is not a therapist.
Exactly. I have to say that.
Okay? And so it is unfair. Maybe if I say it like this, it is unfair for us to put certain weights on the pastor when God has put therapists in place who has been given the tools to really help you heal and deal, or deal and heal. So sometimes, you know, you run to the pastor, y'all wearing the pastor down. Pastor's job is to bring the word at Bible study, Sunday school, and to give godly counsel and on church services. But God has equipped men and women to be therapists. Because mental illness is an issue. Self-love, the lack thereof, self-love. Get yourself a therapist. That's all I want to say. That's all I want to say. I'm not shunning the pastor. I'm not judging. I see Minister Whitney. Our sister is on here. She don't want to just be listening to all y'all problems. Hell, she got problems too. She's trying to figure out life too. Sorry, sis. But I'm just saying, go see a professional. Shawnee, you have the floor, beautiful.
Okay.
I'm gonna get in trouble.
Okay. I would like to say to anybody that is dealing with domestic violence, first I want to say to the families, never push them or make them pick and choose. Like, if you don't leave now, they, like Tyra said, they'll make a conscious decision when they're ready to leave. When they are ready to leave, make sure they have the available resources. And if you don't know what to do, it is 800 numbers. I know where we live, the YWCA has been a great help when I've reached out. Also, to my young women who feel like without a man, life can't go on, I'm here to tell you that it do. It's a whole different light. You are dope. You are great. You can be successful. You can make it. You can do so many other things. A man does not validate you. When your time to be with somebody comes, it'll happen. Just wait, because what you'll do, you'll get into a relationship or a situationship that will cause you a lot of heartbreak. Black eyes, swollen lips. You got to wear sunglasses when it ain't no sun out. So I just encourage our young women to wait and see what it is that you need to learn about yourself. I see so many young women put they all into a man they not even married to. They'll put all their dreams and goals on the back burner to promote and help him. and forget about their own self. That's not healthy either. So I just want to encourage somebody on today, live your life alone until the time is right. And also, the things that we have said today, take it and utilize it. Everything that was said today was helpful. And if anybody that lives in the Flint area, if you ever need help or need somebody to talk to, reach out to me. I don't know everything and I don't know all. I will find help. I will get it for you. And I'm grateful for this platform that my sis has built. I'm glad that she said something so important. If she would have stayed in the abusive relationship, it wouldn't have been Tyra Hill. It wouldn't have been the Queen's Wind Down. She might have never traveled. Tyra traveled all the time. So a lot of times when we in unhealthy relationships or relationships, that's not what it hinders our blessings. It blocks us from a lot of things.
Yes, it does.
So
I love you. I'm so proud of you because I know this was hard for you because you're very private. Always have been private. And so I know that this was a big step for you, but I just believe that God is going to use this to enlarge your Ministry 31 platform. There's more women out there that need you than you even realize. This is just like the beginning. This was like the Queen's Wind Down was your training, your training ground. Now you got to go out there and keep doing the work that you've been doing, Shawnee. Advocate, talk about it. Have those uncomfortable conversations because we need those uncomfortable conversations in order to heal. Because one of the things I understand is we can't heal what we don't feel.
Yep.
And so when we cover up the bruises, I've been there. I done put on a little makeup to cover up a bruise around my neck to cover up the little strangling hands. But you cannot heal what you don't feel. So it's important to feel so you can heal. And I'm going to piggyback on what Shawnee and what Tracy said. You, my queen, beloved, you are more than a black eye.
Yes.
You are more than a wet ass and a broken dream.
Absolutely.
And broken promises.
That's right.
You are more than somebody's punching bag. God has created you to be fearfully and wonderfully made.
Yep.
And it is so much dopeness within you that you don't even know is there because it ain't even touched the surface yet because right now it's laying doormat up under all that hurt and pain and shame. We got to free you because somebody needs what's in your belly. And that's why it's important because anything that's in bondage can't create. But when you become free and when you understand not only who you are, whose you are, and why you were created, ain't nothing going to be able to keep you from purpose and destiny. I am so honored that you, Queen, joined this conversation. I am honored for every viewer, for everyone that shared this, for all 71 comments coming from the North, East, South, and West, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook. And I'm just excited. Please share this show. Please have these hard conversations. If you got a homegirl, a homeboy, a sister, a cousin, a mama, a daddy, an uncle, a brother that's experiencing domestic violence, have that conversation in a safe place. Don't try to go to their house and have that conversation.
Right.
Take them out to eat or pull up at a park and have a conversation. And whatever you do, do not try to confront an abuser.
Nope.
Because we just don't want anything crazy popping off. Before I close out and tell everybody goodbye, I was about to say good day, I want to read this. The trauma of abuse is never fully gone from a person's consciousness. Its filthy stain leaves its residue on the soul forever. However, like all bad experiences, it is possible to turn this experience into good by developing compassion and empathy for others who have been through this experience. Many people feel that bringing meaning to a traumatic experience is a path to healing, When I turn a negative experience into a tool that brings meaning into my life and others, I am taking the best kind of revenge on my abuser. Let your pain birth your purpose.
Yeah.
Talk about it. You not talking about it is not going to stop the next queen from experiencing it. Let's talk about it. Ladies and gentlemen, hold on. Shawnee back in. Bring Shawnee back in. I don't know how Shawnee got out because I'm not closing out until Shawnee back on the screen. There you are. We love you, Shawnee. I love you,
y'all.
Tracy. To all of my viewers out there, thank you for talking about it. And if you're going to keep talking about it, make sure you hashtag TQWD. That stands for the Queen's Wind Down. I am your leading lady, Tyra Hill. Thank you for joining this dope and epic conversation. Be sure to share it. Join me next week because next week I'm doing it with a twist. I'm talking the barbershop, a pillar in the Black community, but I won't be here. There'll be a king sitting in my chair and kings on the screen.
Okay.
So I'm going to open up the show. I'm going to introduce the guests, and then I'm getting up out of my chair because my co-host, Derek Marcano, will be leading that conversation. And I'm so excited about this conversation because the barbershop has definitely been a pillar within the Black community. And they are more than barbers. They're counselors. They're father figures. They're mentors. They squash beefs in the hood with the gangs. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so I think it's dope to talk about the barbershop, a pillar within the Black community. Same place, same time, next Wednesday. Let's talk about it. Whatever you do, stay up, stay blessed, and stay sucker free. Good night, y'all.
Good night. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey.